Good morning. Uh, Obviously got off to a nice start on this trip. Played very well, I thought, for 40 minutes on both ends of the court. Very nice to have a full complement of players back. I thought Andre was terrific in his 18 minutes. We had some concerns coming in, from a conditioning standpoint. He'd been out a good little bit without doing much conditioning, but he got through that pretty well and played very well. So, I thought our defensive intensity was very good from the start. I thought we made things very hard on their perimeter guys. We were very concerned about. I thought we did a great job in transition, and then obviously. We were pretty efficient on the offensive end. So a little bit of everything on that side. I was very pleased to see our transition points up. We got some easy ones. Did a nice job on the offensive glass. And all in all, a unique night. Doesn't happen very often in the Big Ten like that. But now it's on to UCLA in the next, and a very, very good basketball team. They're tough. They're well coached, and got a sensational player in Bilodeau. Got a very, very effective player in Dent, and then they've got veterans in Sky Clark. Perry's now a veteran. So this is a team that's very good, and they're coming off a tough road trip, and I'm sure we're going to get an angry and fired up UCLA team.
Brad, when you talked about sticking with Jake in the starting lineup because you liked that look, but does that also maybe give you the opportunity where like you've got either Jake or Ben, one of those glue guys on the floor like all the time, if not both of them at some point?
Part of it. It's part of it. I think you're always looking for the right combination, and all those guys are going to play, similar type minutes. And um, it just gives us a nice mix, and I like the combination of Jake shooting and his gravity, and then you bring Dre off the bench and Ben and Z, and you've got a lot of size, and you got a driver, you've got a shooter, you've got potential size at the rim, so a lob threat. So it's something that we just felt comfortable with.
And kind of maybe a different question about Kyle, but your initial recruitment of him came when he was living out here, playing out here. What do you remember about young Kylan and what's maybe the same or different now that he's, a senior guard on your team?
Yeah, I think the one thing that'll always stick out is he played on really good teams. He played with really good players. I enjoyed watching his teams play. I thought that the McCain kid and him were in a backcourt together in AAU, and when they were growing up was fun to watch. They were sensational defensively. He's always had a great body, great physique, and it's been fun to see him mature and grow his game. And but the basketball world's a small world, from Champaign to California to Arizona, and now back to Champaign. And sometimes things go full circle, and it's worked out great for him.
Brad, just following up on Scott's question about the Jake starting Andre off the bench. You've had some of your best players come off the bench with Andres Feliz and Will Riley. Is there anything you like about Andre in that second unit that is unique?
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's going to be It's going to be a permanent thing. I think it's one thing that again, where the combinations, the matchups fit, and from the driver, shooter, defender. I always like bringing impact off the bench. We've had a lot of Six Men of the Year award type guys, and I think that's something I value greatly. I've never got overly concerned about who starts. It's just got to be the right fits, and the pieces got to play well together. And Jake's been sensational, and he's earned He's earned the opportunity, and he's a great fit. He showed that the other night, going 4-4 from three, and creates a lot of gravity for a lot of other players.
And then besides being two road games at NCAA tournament caliber teams, is there any challenge of these two-game West Coast trips of playing two games in 4 days?
No, I mean, I think you have I have a very simplistic approach. It's game by game. It doesn't matter where it's at. If if I think every Big Ten game on the road has a challenge and has a different one. And it's our job to get our teams prepared for them, get our group of guys mentally focused and uh, yeah, it's we've been in LA. It's there's worse places to be. But it's got to be a business trip, and that's our approach.
Thanks, Brett.
Hi, Brad.
Hello, how are you?
Good, good. You talked about how, probably going to see an angry UCLA team tomorrow night. Lately, it would seem that Mick has shown more anger or frustration in some of his press conferences. And obviously, that's your opponent, so you're not going to have like too much sympathy or empathy. But can you relate to that? Like, has there been some time in your career where you can kind of see where Mick's coming from?
That's really unfair for me to have to answer that because until you know your group, and what motivates them, what's internally going on, what they need. I think that Mick's been awfully successful every stop of the way, being able to read and understand his team and what it looks like, what it needs to be at its best. I think we all do that as coaches. I think that there's times that in the past I've questioned leadership or I've questioned an effort or this or that. We all go about it in different ways, and so it's not fair for me to truly dig into that very much. You just know your team and you know what sometimes they need, and sometimes it can be a kick in the rear end, and sometimes it needs to be a hug and some love, and we all feel that and do it in different ways.
Do you think they're going to possess more of a challenge maybe for this game because they might be more fired up than usual, or is it
Like
just
yeah, like
matchups or just basketball stuff?
yeah, it's going to be a basketball game of 40 minutes, and we know that anytime you play one of mixed teams, you're going to get their best, and I go off what I've seen on film. I go off of what we happened with them last year. It was a dogfight. Every mixed teams always play really hard, and they're well coached and they don't beat themselves. And I'm expecting that same type of game, no matter what all the outside stuff is.
Thanks, Brad.
Doug, you talking? I can't hear.
Glenn, go ahead, buddy.
All right, Coach, I was just wondering, do you feel like you and your guys have been able to block out the Big Ten standings, the bracketology, the seeding? Is there anything beneficial of maybe knowing where you're at without putting too much emphasis on it or dwelling on it too much, or do you try to ignore it completely?
We've ignored it completely. We've got enough to worry about, and I'm sure we've got guys on our staff that dive into Torvik and Ken Palm and the net and all this, and it's a honestly it's that time of year where you do start paying attention, and it's but to put any emphasis on one thing, I've always said about the Big Ten. Um, there's no need worrying about it. As soon as you worry about something, you get caught up. We're gonna total them up at the end of the year and see who's got the most wins and what it looks like and see where your buys come for the Big Ten tournament. So be very honest, we have not even talked the subject with our players 1 second about it. Never
Brad,
have.
Brad, we saw Kylan play on the ball quite a bit on Wednesday, 8 assists, 1 turnover. Just what is his presence, obviously as a veteran who can be so effective playing on the ball, do for Keaton to make things easier and maybe even open up some opportunities off the ball for him?
Yeah, well, it had more to do with the way they guarded Keaton. We had really seen that facial deny, really physical, get after him in ball screens for a while. And I go back to the Missouri game. That's what Missouri tried to do. With him and take him out of it. And if you want to take Keaton out, okay, I kind of like the outcome. So it's just what the game gave us. There was no sense him having to fight all of that, yet he still made a lot of really good plays but it just ignited everybody else and gave everybody else an opportunity to to play and perform.
Obviously, UCLA's got a bunch of guys who can score, but what's going to be the biggest focus defensively in this game for your guys?
Yeah, I mean, Bilodeau's, special. I mean, he's a tremendous talent. He's got tremendous in the mid-range post area. He's a guy that can pick and pop, make if you leave him open, he can make 6, 7, 8 of them. You pair that with Dent, who's a downhill guy that's very effective in ball screens. You have to handle those situations well. Sky's one of the leading 3-point shooters in the Big Ten. So they've got a lot of pieces. Booker can step out and make a three, and Perry's a aggressive scorer. So they've got a lot of very good pieces on the offensive end. So for us, it's making shots hard, contesting, and then trying to limit them to one shot, which they get 11, 12 offensive rebounds a game. So we got to be very good on the defensive glass as well.
Brett, I'm just wondering, is there any progress for Zvonimir with the face mask? Like, how's he feeling, and where's that outlook for him?
You know what? I don't have an answer for that. I guess I'm just accustomed to him wearing it and fidgeting with it. But I don't know what the prognosis is long term if he has to continue to wear that. And probably something I should ask, but I've just kind of got acclimated to it. He's gonna have it on.
And then Tommy seems to have really settled in. I mean, he had to make adjustments with David here, all the players you have, but like, how has he settling? Because he seems to be playing really consistently now.
Yeah, very good. He's just he's gone from a guy that was primarily in every ball screen last year to now he's one of 2 or 3 guys that are in them, and playing in space a little more. His shooting is truly a weapon. But what's helped now is his kind of his playmaking. His ability to put it on the floor. His ability to cut. Made a couple really nice cuts the other night. He's starting to understand and think a little more like a perimeter guy, to be honest. In what those reads are. So he's really grown his game, and he's really starting to get comfortable in those roles.
Thanks, Brett.
Hey, Coach. Kind of a big question. I hope you can hear me this time.
Yep.
Kind of a big picture question with March coming up pretty quick here. You guys are sitting at 4, I think, in the net. Are you seeing the benefits of that tough schedule, especially early on with that difficult non-conference schedule?
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. I think we've seen that throughout conference play. And I think, we sit there every spring and summer when we make a schedule, and that we hope that when we get to late February and March that the schedule plays out in a way that it's doing that. I mean, last night I'm following Long Island, and you're hoping that the teams that even you that are your bye games are being successful, and they're at the top of the league. That's always a goal for us. So you throw in the Tennessees, the Alabamas, obviously bragging rights, and UConn, and you hope that that prepares you and better positions you come this time of year. So I would be, um, I think it's helped us more times than not. I go back a couple years, and with our win in Vegas and with the win in the Jimmy V, and all those wins I think help us come 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 March. So that's why we continue to play up and play hard games and try to keep moving the needle that way.
And I know it's all about UCLA and finishing strong and all that, but have you thought about that possible path that goes through St. Louis, Chicago, Indianapolis?
Well, I think I got enough people reminding me about that. So I've at least heard about it, but do I pay attention to it? Absolutely not. So good Lord willing that it works out, but we've got a lot of basketball between here and there.
Thank you, Coach.
I'll go one more if that's all right. Coach, you mentioned just knowing when guys need you to get them going and challenge them, maybe call them out, and then when they need you to hug them. And we've seen that in press conferences when you'll defend a guy, and sometimes when you'll be the one calling him out. How do you know when to do that? Does it depend on the guy? Does it depend on what they're going through? Maybe both, maybe more than that. But how do you judge that, and how have you learned that over the years?
Yeah, you do that through relationships, knowing, understanding. Sometimes none of those things matter. Sometimes it's maybe a last grasp or a last ditch effort to help somebody, and sometimes it's peer pressure. I think one of the things that makes this team special is we have internal guys internally put a lot of pressure on each other to do the right things. We've got great leadership and great connectivity. I've always said it, when coaches have to lead, you're not going to be very good most of the time. When you're a player-led team, you've got a chance, and that's very much the case this year. So I think every situation is different. Every player is different. I always go back to TJ Shannon. He wanted to be coached really hard. He wanted to be called out. He wanted to shoulder those burdens and take that on. And then there's just some guys who can't handle that, we call it drinking the poison. They read their phones all the time, and they can't handle the good and or the bad. And that's those are all things as coaches we pay a lot of attention to, or I do, and try to help those individuals and understand them better through all of that.